Hello, and welcome to this American History podcast entitled The Columbian Exchange. In this podcast, we are going to discuss how European exploration of the Americas led to a cultural exchange between what became known as the Old World of Europe and Africa and the New World of the Americas. And this is a very Eurocentric view, as there was nothing new about the Americas to Native Americans who had lived there for centuries. But that was the point of view of Europeans, obviously. So let's go ahead and get started. So, millions of years ago, the landmasses of North and South America were connected to Eurasia and Africa, and over time they drifted apart, and an ocean filled the gap between them. And the two hemispheres developed in isolation from each other, resulting in distinct plants and animals evolving in each half of the world. So farmers in the two hemispheres developed and planted different crops and raised different livestock. The European encounter with the Americas coincided with improved methods of sea travel and the desire to explore and conquer new lands. The combined impact was enormous. Places and people that were once isolated from one another became part of this huge global exchange network, and the contact and trade between these lands helped some people while just devastating others. So, when Europeans crossed the Atlantic in 1492, they carried more than just their ideas with them. They also brought plants and animals, and as they prepared to sail home, they packed new plants and animals they found in the Americas to introduce to the people of Europe. This period of biological mixing between the New World of the Americas and the Old World of Europe, Africa, and Asia is known as the Columbian Exchange. And that's, of course, named after Christopher Columbus. And this momentous exchange of biological matter had a major economic and social impact on the Americas, which was both good and bad. Some of the species the Europeans introduced to the Americas caused significant environmental changes. For example, the Spanish transported livestock, including cattle, horses, sheep, and goats, to the Americas. And these animals' roaming and grazing habits altered native landscapes. Europeans would also slash and burn forests to clear lands for farming. And this map right here shows some of the food that was exchanged during the Columbian Exchange. So all of these foods right here, headed in this direction, were foods that were native to the Americas and were going to Europe and Africa and Asia. And these are items that are native to Europe and Africa that were headed towards the Americas. And of course, it wasn't just food, diseases were also part of the exchange, unfortunately. But stop and take a look and think about how these foods really significantly changed the diet of, Europeans, Africans, Asians, and people of the Americas. So, for example, Ireland gets really closely associated with the potato, but that's actually a food that is not native to Ireland. It's native to the Americas. And then bananas, coffee, citrus, all very closely associated with the American diet and important to, American foods. And that is not actually from the Americas, it comes from Europe. So this exchange had a major impact on all people involved. So Europeans also, in addition to food, introduced deadly new diseases to the Western Hemisphere. And because they had already encountered diseases such as smallpox, Europeans had developed an immunity or a natural protection to those diseases. They could even carry the diseases without showing any symptoms or appearing sick. Native Americans, on the other hand, had not been exposed to European diseases, so they did not have that natural immunity to them. So epidemics of smallpox, influenza, measles, typhus, scarlet fever, those spread quickly after Europeans arrived in the Americas. So between 1519 and 1565, the native populations of Central America fell from an estimated 25 million to 2.5 million due to these diseases alone. And within 3 centuries of Columbus's landing, about 90% of the Native American population had died of disease. So that is 90% had died. So it was a devastating effect on Native Americans. And so the Columbian Exchange introduced many different foods to Native Americans, Europeans, and Africans. Europeans would import pigs, chickens, and other domesticated animals, and they also brought horses with them, which Native Americans would incorporate into their own cultures. Europeans also introduced new crops to the hemispheres: wheat, barley, rye, rice, and cotton were some of the plants introduced to the Western Hemisphere. Other crops included bananas, coffee beans, and sugarcane, and these items grew exceptionally well in Central and South America. And so in our pictures here, these here are foods that are native to the Old World of Europe and Africa. So we have citrus, apple, banana, mango, onion, coffee, wheat, and rice. And here we have foods that are native to the New World or the Americas. So you have maize, tomato, potato, vanilla, rubber tree, cacao or cocoa, and tobacco. So it's hard to imagine what the foods we traditionally associate with these different regions would be like today without this exchange in diet that occurred after Columbus's voyage. And so, one of Americans' favorite foods, pizza, there's a lot of geography and history in a single slice of pizza. And although pizza is thought of as a staple of Italian cuisine, the toppings on your favorite pizza actually come from several different continents and cultures and kind of tell the story of the Columbian Exchange. The Western Hemisphere also contributed an important medicine called quinine, which is seen right here, to Europe, Africa, and Asia. Europeans learned about quinine, which comes from the bark of a tree in South America, in the 1600s. For about 300 years, it served as the only effective remedy for malaria, which is carried by mosquitoes. Quinine's use as a treatment for malaria benefited millions of people, but it also allowed Europeans to later colonize malaria ridden areas of the world. And malaria is still a really important issue today. The mosquito is the deadliest animal in the world. Over 1 million people die from malaria each year, mostly children under 5 years of age, which, with 90% of malaria cases occurring in sub Saharan Africa, which we are learning about Western Africa. An estimated 300 to 600 million people suffer from malaria each year, and more than 40% of the world's population live in high malaria risk areas. So, malaria is still an important global issue today. So, there you have it, the Columbian Exchange. It affected the lives of people throughout the world and forever altered the course of history. Some changes were positive, such as improved nutrition because of a greater variety of foods. However, the effect of the Columbian Exchange on Native American populations was disastrous. Tens of millions, if not possibly closer to 100 million people, died as a result of the Columbian Exchange. So, because of warfare, mistreatment, and disease, large numbers of Native Americans died. And in the next podcast, we are going to talk about a really ugly and dark part of the Columbian Exchange, and that is the exchange of people, in particular enslaved Africans that were brought to the Americas as a result of the death and devastation caused to Native Americans. And again, that's going to be in our next podcast. So I hope this podcast helped. Write down any questions you might have, and have a great day.